Okay, the next of the memches of the 48 ways to acquire Torah is something called b'yishuv. Yishuv, says Rashi, means sha'Torah niknis b'yishuv das. A person has to be relaxed. They have to be calm. They have to make sure that they can stay focused. Like Chazal tell us, kol she'ein daitoi miyusheves, anyone whose mind is not relaxed, al yora, you can't paskin halacha, you can't make any halachic decisions, because there's too much going on. Like it says in the Sefer Ben Sira Batzar, Al Yora, when a person is in Tsar, when their mind is being grasped by their pain and their suffering and their hardships and they're all over the place, you cannot be a Mari Hara, you can't give the proper halachic ruling, because in order to give a proper ruling, your mind has to be clear. It has to be thinking properly. And when a person is in tsar, when they are in anguish, we'll call it, it confounds a person, and certainly the person is going to come to some kind of a mistake. When a person is living a life where they are meyushev, they are relaxed, they are calm, they are peaceful, their mind is working clearly, so they can think properly. My Rabbi once told us that he learned from his Rabbi, you never make a decision on your best day, and you never make a decision on your worst day. Because your mind is not really in the place where it is. On your best day, you're also somewhere out there in the clouds. On your worst day, your mind is confounded by its worst thoughts. So you can't have any real clarity of reality on those days. Anyone who wants that the Torah learning should be something that is successful and is elevated, be very careful to make sure that you don't matrid, you don't burden yourself with your thoughts. You should try your best to clear out your mind from all other asakim, from all other things that are going on. Yishuv Adas, says the Mishnah over here, is something that is so intrinsic to one's learning that if you're mabubal, if you're all over the place, it's very hard for a person. Everybody knows, if you come to a shir and you're in a good mood, and you had a good day, and you're relaxed, and you sit down, you can focus in right away on what's going on. If just before you got out of the car, you were in some kind of an argument or a fight on the telephone, or the boss ticked you off earlier in the day, or there was terrible traffic on the freeway, and you stuck in traffic for an hour and a half, and the whole time you were, I wouldn't say Khalila, cursing out the cars in front of you, but whatever ideas were coming to your mind, then you try to walk into a shir and sit down, and something you're going to start learning, it's almost an impossibility. Now the Rambam, when the Rambam writes in his Akdam, his introduction to a Sefer Mishnah Torah, he goes over there through the Mesoras HaTorah, where the Torah comes from, how it started by Har Sinai, and it came all the way down to all the generations. And the Rambam is bothered by a question. We know that there's something called Torah Sheba'al Peh. Torah Sheba'al Peh is the Torah that was given over at Har Sinai, that was supposed to be learned for all generations, Baal Peh, orally. It was never ever supposed to be written down. The Rambam explains that the individual sages used to write down their notes to themselves so that they would have it, they could review it, they could pass it on to the next generation, but it was never supposed to be written down like a Mishnah, like a Gemara. That it wasn't supposed to be. Until Rabbeinu HaKadosh came along and he wrote it down. So says the Rambam, why did he do this? Why did he write it down if in fact it says that it should never be written down? Why didn't he just leave it the way that it was? So listen what the Rambam says. He saw. First of all, he saw that the level of scholarship of the sages, the amount of sages that were out there, were beginning to diminish. And there were many sorrows, there were many difficulties, and new things, new tragedies and hardships that were happening all the time. And the evil kingdom, I assume it's Rome at that time, was spreading out across the world and getting stronger and stronger. Klal Yisrael was beginning their exile and they were going to the far-flung corners of the world. So since that he saw that it was becoming so difficult to learn the way that they used to, Chiber Echad, he made one standard of learning, Liyos Biyad Kulam, that everybody should have in their hands, Kedei Shilamdu B'mihei V'lo Yishkach, we should be able to learn it quicker and not forget about it. So the Rambam understood that if you look through history for many, many years, from thousands of years from the time of our Sinai, Klal Yisrael had Yishuv Das. They were able to focus and to concentrate and be involved in the Torah. When it got to a point where it became out of hand, there was too much that was going on in our nation. Too many tzaras, too many difficulties, too much golus was taking place. Klal Yisrael was bouncing all around. We no longer had the ability on our own, with that Mesorah of just oral Torah, to be able to sit and learn in the proper way. And therefore, Rabbeinu HaKadosh decided it has to be written down, so for posterity's sake, we'll be able to have Torah Sheba'al Peh once again. And so a person has to try their best when they come to learn, when they come to sit down with a sefer, when they come to sit down in a shiur, they have to try their best that they can clear out their mind from what all the troubles of the day, all of the stresses of the workday, of the office, of the stresses in the house, the stresses in the school, the stresses of the wife, with the kid, with everything. You have to wipe it out in order that when you sit down for a shiur, you're able to concentrate. And as we mentioned several times already, the phone is also a very great distraction for a person. It's very difficult to stay focused in, to try and learn if the phone is sitting right there on the countertop while you're learning on the tabletop. So a person has to learn how to be able to be stronger than the phone and turn it off and push it away and be able to stay focused in on our learning. The next two things go hand in hand, and that is b'mikra u'b'mishnah. A person has to learn mikra, this psukim, Tanakh, and mishnah, which is literally is mishnayos. And those two things are also essential for a person to be able to advance in their learning. And he brings from the Midrash Shmuel the following idea. Shemisha leimed Talmud, someone who learns Talmud, he learns Gemara, he does Daf Yomi. V'lei lamad mikra mishnah, but he never really learned properly mikra, all of Tanakh, and mishnah, and all of mishnayos. Hayu kebayne binyan v'lei bani yesaides techili. He's like a person who builds a building, but he never built the foundations of that building first. Ki amikra ve'amishnei ma'yisayda asher beis haTalmud nochan aleim, because the mikra, the psukim, and the mishnah that comes first is the foundation on which the house of Talmud itself rests upon. So we find that maybe in the system, in the yeshivas today, in the schools today, they don't spend as much time going through Mikra and Mishnah, perhaps as in the older generations, and like we see in the days of at least we see in the days of the Mishnah like that. But we try our best to acquire as much Mikra, as much Psukim. That's why Shnai Mikra V'Echad Targum, the mitzvah of going through the Parsha every single week, twice, with Targum, whether with Unklos or Unklos and Rashi, is so essential because it gives us a great familiarity with the dinim, with the halachas, with the mitzvahs that are there. If you have a seder in Nach, it's not a bad thing either. And Mishnah, to learn Mishnayos is the foundations of what all the Talmud, all the Gemara is built upon. And when a person has that, they can advance Be'ezus Hashem in their studies of Torah.